And here we are again for day 3, my friends. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome. If you can start today by just saying hello, what's your word? Let us know where you're hailing from. We've had, let's see, I think we had about 15 different countries joining us. Yay! Indeed. So today is all about not letting go of control. It's a great name to catch people's attention because we all try to control stuff, don't we? So, or am I the only one? So, I think I'm not the only one, but I could be wrong. So, letting go of control is a misnomer for today because what we're actually doing is relinquishing worldly, three-dimensional, earthly control so we can literally be in the greatest flow with life that transcends needing to be in control. But not only does it transcend it, when you're in sync, you know what those days look like, right? When you're totally in sync, when everything's just like, yeah, this is good. You know, when those days when everything just seems to come your way, or maybe it's hours for some people, or maybe it's a minute where everything was coming your way. And hello to everybody from all over the world who's watching this right now from every country. If you can write in where you are in the world and your word for the day, that's what we want to hear. Yay for flow. So imagine that it's possible. And I just want to talk about imagination for a second. You see, imagination is actually conjuring up a vision that your brain and your body don't distinguish any different from reality. So you start generating a different biology when you let yourself imagine. So when you're imagining, just know that it's so much better than what you think. Wonderment, what a great word. It's so much better than what you think. Imagination, when you're in wonderment. In that imagination, what happens is your biology starts to shift. Your biology starts to match what you're in wonderment about, what you're imagining. So as you'll find me asking you guys to imagine quite a bit, and we're all going to imagine together because I'm not asking you guys to do it, I'm doing it too. Just know that from the place of imagining a time where you actually transcend the need to control the outcomes, where literally you have so much cellular knowing. So we're going beyond trust. Trust is a mental game. Trust is where the mind, think about it. Think about it. When I say just trust me, your mind has to be engaged. Or can I trust this person? Your mind has to be engaged. Trust is not working with pure possibility, the laws of physics, the smallest particles of us. It does not tap you in to your flow because you can say, oh, I'm just going to trust this person. Well, why don't you trust your own knowing? Okay, so there's trust and there's faith, which oftentimes is blind. And really what people mean by faith is actually cellular knowing. We don't want to be down in the mind in trust because trust gives your power away to others. And now, depending on how they feel or which way the wind blew that day, or whether their husband just yelled at them or whatever happened, you can trust them to do what they said or not do what they said. You know, a customer just finished pulling out from their business and they're in despair and they forgot to do your thing for you. So trust is an interesting thing because it's completely mental and it gives your power away. Even trusting the universe, that's giving your power away. What if we were in the dance with life, with the universe, with God, with whatever you want to call that which creates all things? What if you were never meant to trust it or have faith in it? What if you were meant to be in your knowing of how that call and response that reciprocal, mutually honoring, mutually beneficial relationship that's basically foundational to you take a step and then consciousness takes a step. You take a step and then life takes a step. You take a step, life takes a step. Do you want to actually be in control of that? Or do you actually want to have the full experience of the expansive nature of what's possible when you're in your presence in a level of knowingness about life that just total badassery can ensue? Come on. Now that takes understanding how the thriving operating system works. And if you don't know how the thriving operating system works, then what's going to happen is you're going to feel like you need to control life, right? If you actually don't know how that reciprocal flow with all that is works, then it's going to feel like you have to control life. So I'd like to hear from people who are either recovered control freaks, or people that are actually still trying to control things. Sometimes I don't want to admit it. My eyes twitching a bit. I love that Wish Beads is here. Hi, Alexa. So, you guys, I'm going to reiterate again before we do the exercise, because today it's not even about surrendering, because even surrendering can be you giving your power away to life, the universe, God, whatever your languaging is, to science, to physics, to how it all works. We don't want to give our power away. We actually want to be set firmly with confidence in the dance with life, such that you're available for transcendent, what we call or better results. But the way to be available for or better results is the opposite of control. Stay with me here. If you are trying to control life, you're trying to control it generally. You can confirm or deny what I'm about to say. Generally, the reason we want to control it is because what happens is we witness the trajectory of something that's happening. We have a pretty picture of how we think that thing should look. It could be your body. It could be your sweetie. It could be your finances. You start freaking out because you see your bank account balance or how much your Visa bill was this month. And then what happens is there's this knee-jerk reaction from the amygdala in your brain that has nothing to do with being fully present to the miraculous, has everything to do with, oh, it shouldn't be that way. And as soon as you say it shouldn't be that way because you have your pretty picture of how it's supposed to look, you immediately try to bend life. It's like you're in a wrestling match with life when you were meant to be in a dance. I'm glad some of you are still recovering. I'm still recovering too, but man, so much better. Can't even tell you. Right? So this is not about, I mean, I called it letting go of control because that's what people resonate. You know, people say marketing is in the language that people can hear, but it's not necessarily, you get what you need to hear in order to hear the rest, right? And so it's not about letting go of control, because when you actually understand how the dance works with life, you wouldn't even be interested in trying to be in a wrestling match. You would be interested in, wow, this little issue that I'm having right now is causing me so much contrast. And I know that in contrast, in the laws of physics, because this is just the truth. In the laws of physics, 1,000 solutions already exist with respect to the problem that you're having. You have the problem in physics, the problem can't exist without solutions or something that completes or resolves that problem. But what happens when our amygdala gets engaged, when we get afraid, when our pretty picture we think isn't going to happen, when that happens, and you don't know how to be in the dance with life, and we don't understand that life is meant to be a creative process, and that the contrast and the dissonance and the problems are meant to happen in order to catalyze the solutions. When we don't understand that, we think we're on our own. We think that life hasn't already responded. We forget about physics, or we never even learn about physics. And we spend the rest of our life being a massive stress puppy. Because the world, the wars, the politics, the this, the that, the oh my gosh, the ecology. But the ones that recognize, take a deep breath, everybody breathe. The ones that recognize that all of this polarity has also not even birthed, because there was no time. It's a co-happening. Entanglement is a co-happening in physics. Problem, all the solutions. When we start to not trust that, when we start to not have faith in that, when we start to actually cellularly know that when we get out of the way of consciousness, and like we talked about yesterday, when we actually start to make our frequency, our mood, how we feel drive the bus, instead of letting the world, the people, the sweetie, the whomever pull on us, when we be the most ridiculous champion of our mood, our frequency, our who we are, relentless. Oh, that happened? I'm going for a walk. Oh, that happened? I'm going to dance in my office for a second. I just got to get myself back. Who is driving your bus? When you let that drive the bus, all of a sudden you become ridiculously receptive. Ridiculously receptive. Because you're tuning yourself to where all the solutions are. What if the only reason that a problem, a restriction, an issue happens is solely that you can engage yourself as a creator, as someone that has the capacity to receive from the infinite that which would resolve that issue and so much more? What if we're on this planet in order to receive resolution and solution? And then that level of creativity is why we're here. Come on. Right, Alexa? What if that's the only reason we're here? Now there's no problem. You don't need to control. The instant something happens, you don't need to surrender. You don't need to, well, you can surrender to the fact that there's a solution. Surrender to receiving what it is that would get you in resonance with those resolutions. Know that it's going to be divine timing, not your timing. You get to drive the bus. Right, exactly. So, so is it letting go of control? Again, I'm going to bring this back around. No, it isn't. It's much better than that. It's actually ultimately being in control. But instead of being in control in 3D, which is so linear, so effortful, so requires muscle and physicality and your memory and it requires a lot of hard work in 3D. But remember, we are cells, then molecules, then atoms, then protons, neutrons, and electrons, and then subatomic space, quarks and waveforms and photon packages of light. That's what comprises this reality. If you just took a microscope strong enough and went down and down and down and down and down and down, there would be no disconnection from each other. That is reality. That is not a woo philosophy. It's actually what is. So when we start to operate that thriving operating system I talked about earlier from the basis of the laws of physics, meaning actually playing with instead of wrestling with, playing with and dancing with in this reciprocal, beautiful journey that we get to go on as human beings, the possibility that letting go of earthly control gives you the most divine, infinite control in the dance with all that is. So ultimately, in divine control, there are 4 or 5 characteristics. 1, you don't always need to know what the outcome is. In understanding that there's a problem, there's solutions, you just need to line yourself up and get yourself back to driving the bus. That's the first thing. Driving the bus will give you solutions. If it gave you solutions that you already knew about, you'd be in control. Earthly control. That's the booby prize. Second characteristic of divine control, really being in the divine dance, right, with life, where you're fun, where you're having fun, where you're shaking and baking, right? The second characteristic is that you're thrilled by what's coming. The third is that your results exactly would be or betters. They wouldn't be what you perceived. They would be better than what you perceived. The fourth characteristic is that you're inspiring to some people and you tick some people off because they wonder what you're doing that they're not doing. But at the same time, there's a whole bunch of people that's like, what are you doing? And the last characteristic is you start to become much more deeply aware that you're off. You know, when you're off, you start to become a lot more aware of what, like, the dissonance between the two is like, I'm off. This feels terrible. Right. And you want to feel terrible when you're off because you're not in your cosmic flow. You're not in your divine flow. You're not shaking and baking. You're not, kicking ass and taking names. You want to feel bad. That's how you know. You got to do something else. Because living a life of predicted results, booby prize. Just saying, not saying that's the truth. Now, some might say sometimes I do need to relinquish control because when I'm with my husband, wife, kids, feeling, employees, whatever it is, team, I try to orchestrate them so that the results are what I imagine in my head. But all the fun goes away. Just so you know, it is the perfect day to talk about or better results because this is being recorded originally on October 31st, Halloween. It's all about your super duper extraordinary superpowers. And you have the ability to tap into the resources of those infinite particles where we're all connected. And through the connection of all of those smallest particles of us, there are orchestrations that happen when that level of awareness considers every leaf on every tree, every season in every country, every star in the sky, every blade of grass, every grain of sand, every supernova, every black hole, everything, every species on any planet, all of those things are considered. And those are the answers that we have the privilege of lining up with. Or you could just go into your amygdala and try to wrestle it to the ground, right? And some of you I can feel are saying, easy for you to say. And I'm like, no, it isn't. It just starts with a journey of embodying the skills to live in the thriving operating system. That's just a process. And that's what we're doing for the whole 21 days. So, hello, who doesn't want to come together such that we can co create our own or better lives, which leads to an or better world? Not Pollyanna, not fluffy, scientifically, metaphysically, neurologically. And yes, predicted results are so boring. It's so much fun to play. So, exercise for today. Everybody breathe. Everybody take a breath in. Remember how we began on day 1. If you have not yet watched the other days, please make sure that you watch them. They will really help you. As you know, every day we are showing up here at 5:55. You can absolutely invite a friend or 8 or 10. This is about coming together in times of great change. And instead of being a victim of what's going on around us, we actually are going to get so far out ahead of it that literally hardly anything will be able to pull you. It's just not going to happen. There's a playlist on YouTube where you can go back. You could listen to these 20 days, for for as long as you like. You can just keep going. If you have a favorite day, make sure you star it, and make sure you follow us and like us and make a comment in YouTube. We always like that. And it really does help us reach more people. This is all about activating you as your own movement of one to many. It's what I love. Even my dog loves it. I don't know if you just heard him yawning. All right, you guys. So let's do an exercise around transcending 3-dimensional control, right? To go into true universal dance with all that is. Okay, so everybody take a breath. Now, this time, take a breath that literally ripples up your entire spine, like your spine is wanting to make space and it's making this huge wave that when it gets to the top, it almost releases all the vertebra and all the energy so that it just shoots right up the top of your head, literally freeing up who you are. Maybe take a couple of breaths that way. Now, take your awareness, take the you that is you, take your consciousness, take where you put your attention and take it behind your eyes. Take it behind your eyes, right behind your eyes, and let it drop in almost like sands in an hourglass. So are the days of our lives. No. Like sparkles. When you drop sparkles and they just like go wherever they need to flow, imagine that those sparkles kind of flow into your extremities to the end of your fingertips. Wiggle your fingertips like the call to your consciousness, like the call to your awareness that, yeah, all the way to here. I want you to come here. Now wiggle your toes to tell your awareness that, yeah, I want the sparkles all the way down to my toenails. Right now, from this place, imagine that every cell is actually made of molecules and then atoms and then protons, neutrons, and electrons, and then waveforms and magnetics and gravitational pull and photon packages of light and quarks and all sorts of dark matter. And imagine that in that world, the world that has no space time, it's just an is. It's like the smallest particles of us, that actually within your physical body, all of that already exists. And then at that level, you're connected to all that is. There is no differentiation. There's no delineation of where your body ends and all of that begins or where anyone else begins. Let yourself just drop into that liminal space for a moment and notice that you don't need to let go of control. All there is a different level of presence, a different level of awareness. You just looked through your own imaginary microscope and dropped yourself into another geography. And in that geography is where all of the answers lie. Without having to know the entire thriving operating system, can you kind of feel that it would be fun to live perpetually in flow with confidence, with that level of knowing? Wouldn't it be cool to be able to receive instead of control? Wouldn't it be interesting to dance with this level of you? Anyone can. It's not for the special people. This is not a woo exercise. This is just science. Anyone. I mean, imagine what you could get done. Imagine the transcendent ideas. In fact, think of some of the transcendent ideas you've already had. Think of the places you've found to live. Think of the deals you've got in cars. Think of how you met your last sweetie. Think about how you found your favorite, I don't know, pedicurist. Think of how your dog or your cat or your bird ended up in your lap. Right? That all happened not from the place of you trying hard. It actually happened in the place of you trying not hard. You were not even trying. You were not thinking about it. You were not forcing it. You weren't even trying to get it. Wasn't even a control game. It just happened. That's when you get out of the way of consciousness and you just happen to be in the perfect frequency to receive, which means that has to do with your mood and being responsible for who's driving the bus. So just think about some of those cosmic things that have happened in divine order. Most people are unconsciously competent at letting those things drop in, and it only happens every once in a while. That's why we call them miracles. But what if miracles became normals just because you knew what the thriving operating system was? Yeah, just because you knew how it worked. And the first step of that is just making yourself aware that this level of knowing exists. And at this level of knowing, there are all sorts of things working out in the world. I wonder what your piece of the puzzle is, don't you? And we'll talk about gaining that clarity as we go along. There'll be some exercises we do. But in the meantime, just breathe, everybody. First, breathe the gratitude for even knowing that being out of control is awesome. Just breathe the gratitude for that. Second, breathe the gratitude for everyone all over the world that's joining us right now. And just imagine metaphysically, we could reach our hands out, and it doesn't matter where these people are in the world, because on this level, there is no time or space. You just think of all the people, and literally, metaphysically, energetically, without geography, when we're in this metaphysical geography, it doesn't matter if someone's in Australia. So we all in some way are touching each other. And imagine now that we all get to breathe our eyes open just being reminded that there's so much more. Just breathe your eyes open, however many breaths that takes. And I want to say one final word. One of my dear friends who also lives in the Asheville area has a husband that is in his transition to the other side right now. And he's a very unique, genius man, much like my husband. And I felt him all day. I feel him now. And he really did dance with consciousness. He was the forefather of biogeometry and making houses that were aligned with, everything that is subtle in this world, the magnetics, the shapes, the geometries of this world. Very, very special man. And he's still in his dance with consciousness. I don't mean he's still creating. I don't even mean that he surrendered, although he might say that he is. But he's still dancing. He's still dancing. He can't talk right now, but he's using his eyes to be hilarious with the people around him. He has no need to control anything because he knows he's moving through. Remember that every single one of us will find that place at some point in our life. And you'll either learn the lesson when you're transitioning to the other side, or you get to actually be curious on the adventure and see how deeply you can be in the dance with life. And that's what today was all about. I'd love to hear from you what your favorite, and yes, we'll be here for another 19 days. We have things coming up. Some of the things coming up is one of my favorite medical doctors who stopped having a license and decided she was going to do breath work of all crazy things. She's so awesome. And she's going to be here doing breath work with us. She's got an amazing process. I was talking to her, my friend Brooke Yancey, who's currently in Costa Rica. She's just such a badass in being able to move energy through body movement. We've got, some of you might know her. And then, we've got people from this local area of the world who train trauma therapists and are going to help us move through trauma, and an amazing doctor that started a foundation that's called the Conscious Center for Living and Dying, because she was a hospice doctor and she realized that people do not die with grace, and she wanted to take people on these incredible journeys. And so she's going to help us grieve the world that has been, maybe the world that we grew up in, now that the world is like this, however you perceive it, that we're going to move through some grief around that. So just imagine that we are all going to come together and do all sorts of powerful things. I'd love to hear what you got from today. Yeah, bring some friends. Absolutely bring some friends. It's a powerful journey together, you guys. Tomorrow, I love you. I can't sing. So, well, I can. You just, that is not the way I'm going to inspire you. Let's just put it that way. Thanks, Rebecca. I love this too. I love being with you guys. I love knowing that we're not alone, right? Love knowing that we're connected. But tomorrow, Mr. Adam Lamb is going to actually post this. We're talking about actually finding peace. We're going to do an exercise where peace becomes inevitable. We're actually going to do something really powerful around peace. I want to share something. Okay. Yes. We're going to do something really powerful about imagine if you could find peace in any moment. Didn't matter what was going on, didn't matter if the bombs were going off around you, right? Imagine that this exercise just is like whoosh, and just brings you into peace. Just it's like the ninja tool. It's like the Jedi training, right? So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. The point of these exercises is yes, we're going to use tools, but remember, this is all about coming together, having a place to come when the world is going crazy outside of us and never being a victim of it again. That we grow bigger than all of it. And we are so confident in our knowing about who we are and our connection to what's actually going on, the 99.139% of what's going on, which is creation upon creation, and tapping into that world so that we become the ones that align with the solutions rather than feeling a victim of what's going on around us. Yeah. Love this community just like you do. Giving you all a big, badass, wicked, squishy, ridiculous, yummy hug. And Glenda, Ann, Tanya, Alexa, Jeannie, Rebecca, Katerina, and everyone that hasn't put a comment in that I haven't seen, Teresa, all of you, Catherine, all of you. And New Leaf Company. And yeah, all of you, just so blessed by this communion. We are all connected. This is really a community that isn't interested in playing sides off one another. This is a community that's looking at creating something that works for all of us. Love you. We'll see you next time around. Mwah.